Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm presenting on something that I have no idea whether it'll perform well or not on YouTube, but I think it's very important if you're studying for the MCAT, and in general if you're studying for anything, is just knowing the value of meditation for performing well on these standardized exams. And meditation is something that I wish I started way earlier in my life. I wish I was more consistent with it, but I was very consistent with it for about a year, and it results in really noticeable improvements in your ability to think critically, to calm down, to be able to look at a passage and absorb and extract information from it. It's like drugs for your brain, right? It's so amazing, and almost nobody who I know practices meditation for preparation for these standardized exams, and I'm always asked all the time, and including in the video that I posted about how to improve in cars, like, how do you improve your reading section? How do you get better at reading? How do you extract more information? And how do you do better on these questions? And honestly, for a lot of like reading tests where you're looking at a passage and you're trying to focus and you're trying to make sure that nothing else is distracting you, I think meditation is a great tool. And there's actually studies that support how meditation really improves your critical thinking and your mindfulness and things like that. I don't think it should be a surprise to anybody that these studies do exist, but I kind of want to talk about like some strategies that you can start to implement to actually use meditation if you're studying for the MCAT, right? And hopefully you're going to continue this habit after you're done with the MCAT, but I think that if you're studying for the MCAT, then this is a pretty good time to start. So the first thing is you want to schedule a time for meditation every single day. Maybe it's when you first wake up, maybe it's after lunch, maybe it's right before you go to sleep, maybe it's like after dinner, whatever, right? You want to focus on making sure that there's no distractions, that it's the same time every day, that you can actually carve out time for, that there's a schedule in your day that's devoted to that, like 15 minutes or so, and that like a safe location where you won't be disturbed, that you can do it. If you need like a pillow to be able to sit up straight, then make sure you have a pillow in that location. If you don't know where you'll have like a quiet space, then take headphones and start white noise, or just play white noise out loud on your phone. Ideally, your phone should not be in the same room as you so that there's no distractions. And then you might want to start with 3 minutes or 2 minutes, right? I started with 3 minutes and it felt like hell. It was so difficult to do 3 minutes, right? It's really difficult when you're getting started, and that's kind of like when you want to put the most effort into it. All you have to do is close your eyes, and if you're just sitting there and you're closing your eyes and you're not doing anything, like you're not looking at your phone, you're not getting distracted, then you've meditated. It doesn't matter if your mind is wandering, it doesn't matter if you're sort of like lost in thought. I mean, that stuff is going to happen. But as it happens more and more frequently as you go on, you want to kind of think to yourself, it's okay. Stop judging yourself. If your mind wanders, it wanders. And if it doesn't wander, it's good, right? Most people try to like clean out their head and make sure it's completely black and there's nothing they're thinking about, and you're putting too much pressure into it. And so the goal here is to kind of just let your mind do what it does and notice when it's wandering or drifting away, just calm peace, and then bring your mind back to a state of peace, and then keep doing that, right? And as you keep doing that, basically what you're training your brain to do is that as your brain starts to wander or your mind starts to wander, you're training yourself to catch that change in direction and then catch yourself and say, it's okay, I'm not going to judge myself, but I just need to bring myself back to peace, right? If you can do that over a couple of days, then you're going to get better and better. And I'd say like start with 2 minutes, start with 3 minutes, and then keep working yourself up to like 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And as you get up to that level and you're able to, like sit there peacefully without feeling restless or without feeling like there's somewhere that you have to be or some thing that you have to do, then you're going to be a pretty solid master of meditation. Now, I've already talked about this, but you want to find a comfortable space. If you don't have a space that can be quiet, then consider using headphones. I personally don't really like the guided apps. I know that it works really well for other people, but sometimes I feel like it can be a distraction to have my phone there or like somebody who's talking to me, and I just kind of like being able to close my eyes, and it feels very peaceful to me. I also like sitting up. I don't like lying down. And something that I try to do is lighting up a candle in front of me, and that kind of actually gives me a sensory feeling to focus on what I'm doing. And so like every time that I light that same candle, it kind of gives my brain a cue that, okay, it's time to meditate. This is not actually that important. If you just do what I told you, which is like, don't focus on the technique, just sit down, close your eyes, and focus on your breathing, that's perfect, right? But there's a lot of different techniques to meditation. You can do mindfulness meditation, you can do visualization, you can do guided meditation. So you want to just choose something and practice it consistently. It actually doesn't really matter what the technique is. It's kind of like one of those things where you don't want to get lost in the sauce. You want to kind of just do the thing because that's what's going to make you better at the thing. If you want to have some like guidance, something that I recommend is the podcast between Joe Rogan and Naval Ravikant. I really like this podcast episode, and especially actually this was the podcast that kind of first got me into meditation, because Naval Ravikant was really good at explaining the benefits of meditation and how you can use it in your life and what problems you're going to solve and why you should do it and how you should get started and things like that. So that's kind of an optional listening thing if you want to get started. Okay, the next thing is to start small. If you're new to meditation, again, don't put too much pressure for yourself. Even like 3 minutes, 2 minutes is really beneficial, especially if you do it consistently. That's kind of the big thing. And you can always gradually increase duration over time. You don't want to start with like 20, 30 minutes because that's going to be too difficult. You're not going to get much out of it, but just start with a few minutes and it's going to be helpful. The next thing is focusing on your breath. If you're like feeling, restless or your mind is wandering a lot, just like put all your focus onto your nose and mouth, and it'll kind of help you breathe and move and focus on the physical aspect. Another podcast that I really recommend is The Way Out Is In. Excellent podcast. It's run by this Buddhist camp, I think in France, and they really explain meditation really well and what the focus of it is, the mindset. It's run by people who've been practicing meditation for decades, right? So they're really good at meditation and they kind of explain what their thought process is. But I think the ultimate goal for a lot of people is to put less focus on your brain and more focus on your body and the physical, and to ground yourself. And so when you're focusing on your breathing, actually what you're doing is kind of focusing on your chest moving up and down, your diaphragm moving up and down, contracting, your nose inhaling and exhaling, your mouth maybe being closed or maybe inhaling, exhaling. And by taking those deep breaths and slowing down, you can focus on the sensation of your breath moving. The next thing is using affirmations. You can use affirmations if you want to by, looking at the mirror and saying, I'm going to achieve my goals, or looking at the mirror and saying, doctor in front of your last name, right? And just being like, I'm going to do this. This is going to happen. I'm creating an atmosphere of positivity for myself. And the MCAT is a marathon, not a sprint. So if the more kind you can be to yourself, the better, right? You want to practice regularly. I talked about this. And finally, you want to kind of know what the goal is. And the goal is that by incorporating meditation into your study routine, you're creating a sense of calm, you're setting a sense of focus, you're staying motivated, you're staying focused, and you're being patient and kind to yourself. You're devoting yourself to a practice, and you're telling yourself that you're taking this seriously enough that you care about your well-being, you care about your mental health, because this is a difficult process, but it's worth it. And if you have any questions, I'm really happy to answer them. I know that this is different from my normal videos, but I think it's very important, especially if you're trying to do well on the MCAT and you're trying to be kind to yourself and improve your score. So I'm really happy that you watched this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.